Next Village San Francisco is a local nonprofit providing services and support that empower seniors to live independently in their own homes. We welcome people who want to keep connected with their community as members, volunteers, and supporters. We host 30 to 40 free activities and events each month for the public, and our members have access to our network of volunteers. Learn more and get involved at nextvillagesf.org. We hope you enjoy this video.
Three main things today we're going to cover. It's all about photos, and as before, we'll have a long Q&A at the end where we can get some more specific questions. But we're going to look at how to view photos on your Android, how to share photos on your Android, and then finally how to transfer photos on your Android over to your computer, because I know a lot of people like the bigger screen and maybe software that they're more familiar with. Okay, so we'll start with how to view photos. This session is going to be, unfortunately, more difficult to speak to broadly than either of the other two, because this all really happens inside Android apps. And as I think we've discussed in the past, if you have a Samsung phone, that might mean that you have a different app to a Google phone, different to a Huawei phone, etc. So I've got screenshots of both the Google ones and the Samsung ones, because I think that's the vast majority of phones sold in the US, but your mileage might vary a little bit here, so feel free to reach out, set up some time. If you're not able to follow through, if things just look so different, there's a good chance it's not a you problem, it's the fact that my instructions don't apply to your specific app. So how to view photos in Android? I think it's helpful to think of there being two types of photos that you might get on your phone. One is the photos that you have taken on your phone. So as you're walking around, anything that you personally take is often stored in what's known as the camera roll. But then, of course, there's lots of other photos that you might have on your phone as well, which are photos that you have been sent in some other way. So that might be one of your friends has texted you a photo. It might be one that you've seen online that you've downloaded. All those other photos are sort of slightly different in the eyes of Android to the ones that you yourself have taken. And the easiest way to, or perhaps the most intuitive way to look at the photos that you have taken is through your camera app. So I think, but on both Google and Samsung and on most other phones, the app that you use to take pictures is called Camera. Sometimes it might be called Samsung Camera or Huawei Camera or something. But you open it up and it's pretty intuitive. There's the big screen that the camera itself is looking at. You press the button and you take the photo. And then in both cases, I've put the red circle here. Normally there's a shortcut from that camera, so from the screen where you're taking the photo, to then see the photos that you have taken in the past. So that's called a link to your gallery. And your gallery, once you tap on it, will have all the photos that you've taken, but only the photos that you've taken yourself with your phone. I hope that makes sense. So that's a shortcut. That's the easiest way to often look, but normally there's a full app as well on your phone. So in the case of Google, it's an app known as Google Photos, and it's got this icon here. In the case of Samsung, it's the Samsung Gallery, and it's got this icon here. Samsung does like to rebrand their app quite a lot. So if you have an older phone, it might look slightly different to this, but it's generally some artistic rendition of a flower. So that's what the Samsung Gallery is. And when you tap into the apps, they look something like this. They look quite different, which is why it's difficult to just sort of speak to everything at once. But in general, it's a collection of the photos that you have taken or that you have saved onto your phone in some other way in reverse chronological order. So in this screenshot, which is just one I got online, you can see that on the Google Photos home screen, it says December. And if you were to start scrolling down, you would then see November, then October. And it's just a way of you to be able to scroll down and find the photos you've taken. On the Samsung Gallery, it's a little bit more separated. So there's 3 tabs at the top you can see. pictures, albums, and stories. I would say for the most part, you guys can completely ignore the stories section. That's a sort of social media option that you it's a little bit more tricky to handle. But the two items, pictures and albums, is what allows you to scroll between those photos that you've taken yourself and the pictures that you might have received from other places. So in this particular example, the albums include the camera album. So that's a way to get to the ones you've taken. But also you can see a folder called Download, a folder called Instagram. So for those of you who are using other apps or perhaps getting sent photos from your family or friends, maybe through WhatsApp, maybe through Instagram, maybe through Facebook, you will see those albums there. That is where the photos from those apps have been saved. That makes sense. Okay, so I'll pause there. Has everybody been able to find either the Google Photos app or the Samsung Gallery app? Or if not one of those two, are you familiar with which app you use to view photos in your phone? If not, maybe we can just take a note of which phones there are available, and then I'll reach out and sort of do it one-on-one. Hoping that no news is good news, so everybody either has the gallery, Google Photos, or some other Photos app. And hopefully a lot of you at least are comfortable with having taken photos and are able to sort of review those. And I know the main question, the most asked question for this session was, how do I then share them? If you've got a cute photo of a grandchild that you want to send to your child or family, friend, etc. So that's the next section. How to share photos. This is the magic icon that you want to be looking at in Android devices. It is very abstract, so it's certainly not obvious what it does unless you're already familiar with what it does. But you can see it's sort of 3 dots connected by 2 lines. And the idea, the very abstract idea of this is that the dot on the left is you, and you are, a person, and you are sharing information out to other dots, which is other people. So it's not intuitive at all. It's very abstract. But the good news is that almost every Android app that has some functionality where you might want to share something uses this. So once you're familiar with identifying it, you're going to start seeing it everywhere, and it's going to become intuitive to you what it is. So as I said, most apps have a share option. Doesn't actually even need to be a photo. If you, for instance, were to buy things on Amazon.com and you find an item that you like, you can share a link to that item with somebody that you want to share it with. So you're going to start seeing this icon all over the place. And in the case of the photo gallery, where you have, maybe 10, maybe 20, it all depends on the size of your screen, etc. But if we go back to, let me go back to like this list here. Here you can see inside the Google Photos app, there's 12 photos in December. And in order to get that, to find where that share icon is, and I believe it's the same on the Samsung Gallery, you press and hold on the photo that you'd like to share. So if you have a photo you'd like to share, you open up the Gallery app, you find the photo that you want, and then you press and hold on it. And what that will do, that will pop up a menu. I think on Google it's at the bottom, and on Samsung it's the top. It will pop up with a few different options for you to interact with that photo. You might be able to edit the photo, you might be able to delete the photo, but one of them is very likely to be this share button. And it sometimes says share underneath it, sometimes it doesn't. So again, you just need to get familiar with this icon. But you press, and then this share icon will appear. You press it, and then you'll get some things popping up. So I've got some screenshots here. This is an example. Pressed on the photo. Depending on how you're looking at the photo, this icon might just be there the whole time. But you see it down in the bottom left with the green arrow. Tap that, and you will get the thing over on the right pop up. So it's going to be a little menu that generally slides out from the bottom or slides out from the top. And it will give you the option of how you would like to share your share that photo. And it's a two-step process when you think about sharing a photo. The first is that you have to select which method you want to send a picture through, and we'll touch on that in a little bit more. But you might want to send a photo to your friend through a text message, if that's how you normally communicate. You might want to do it through email. You might want to do it through WhatsApp. You might want to do it through Facebook. Different people are used to using different apps, and you might have certain apps that you speak to some friends with, and some apps that you might speak to some family members with. So the whole option, the whole point of this share option, which is very common feature through Android, is that it allows all the apps to talk to each other. So anything that is able to somehow send a photo will appear when you press that share button. So in this example below on the right, you can see it says this share to apps. So this is where you're going to pick an app. The default ones that are here are all Facebook apps. So if you're familiar with posting onto Facebook and you might want to share it with all your friends, you can certainly do that. But if you then scroll along to the side, you'll go through all the different apps on your phone that are capable of sharing out photos. So your text messaging app that we covered back in lesson 1, that will be there because it's a very common use case to share photos through text messaging. You could share it through email, whether you use Gmail or some other email app, that will be there. You can share it through WhatsApp, all these other options. So you just need to scroll along until you find the app that you want to use to share. And then the second step begins. So you've got the photo, you want to send it through text. So you press that text messaging app icon, and up will pop the text messaging app on top of your Photos app. So whichever app it's going to be will jump on top. And then you will have to go through the workflow that you're familiar with on how to send a text. So what that will typically mean will be that all of your contacts will show up, and you'll scroll down until you find the person that you want to send the photo to. Whether you scroll or whether you search, that's up to you. And you'll tap that person, and then it will come up as if you're composing a new text message to that person, but already pre-attached will be that photo that you were sharing. So what you've done there is gone from one app, told that app you'd like to share it with the text messaging app, for example. Text messaging app then takes over and says, okay, I understand you'd like to share a photo. Who would you like to share the photo with? And then you scroll down and you find the contact that's in your contacts. For example, if you wanted to share through email, which is, I think, the method that people are most comfortable with, you would just scroll until you find the email app, press that email app, and then it will pop up with an email that's already been pre-composed that has the photo as an attachment. And then you can type in the email address, type in anything else in the subject, in the message line. But when you send it, it will include that photo. Okay, I'll pause there again. Is there anybody who is already sharing comfortably, and is there anybody who hasn't shared, who's not following along? You can drop it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. Okay, great. So the last piece is transferring photos. So if you don't want to send it to somebody else, but maybe you want to look at it on your computer so that you can have it on a bigger screen, maybe print it out is a common use case. We can cover that now. There's a few different ways. One is to actually use that sharing feature that we've just gone through, that we've just covered, and just send it to yourself. Through some system that you're comfortable with using the computer on. So a very typical one would be share it via email. And when that email composer comes up, just share it with your own email address, and then you'll receive an email with that photo. And then you're probably in a situation where you're much more comfortable with what to do. You know how to download the emails, you know how to print the photos, etc. So that's personally the way that I often do it myself, because it's actually easier to do that share once you're familiar with that workflow than it is to plug in a phone and do the sort of transferring across. That can get really tricky. So I haven't really covered that today. But if anybody is more comfortable doing that, I'm certainly happy to do a one-on-one session. We can talk that through. But perhaps an even easier way is if you use Google Photos or Samsung in particular, which I think is probably most of you, you can actually just go to their computer versions of these apps. So if you use Google Photos, you can open up your web browser and go to photos.google.com, and that will load a version of Google Photos on your computer. And for most people, when you set up your phone for the very first time, what you told Google to do would be to allow syncing of your files between your phone and your Google account that sort of lives in the cloud online. And so if you go to photos.google.com and log in with your Google address, all of your photos that you've taken will just be there. Sometimes takes a few minutes after you take a photo for it to upload so that the other systems can read it. But yeah, they'll just be there, and you can view them, download them, print them in a way that you're more comfortable with. Samsung doesn't have a website like that, so you can't just open a browser, but they do have a PC application that you can download. And then again, it will essentially operate a lot like your phone, but on the computer. So you just need to sign in to your Samsung account, which you might need some help finding the sort of username and password for. But whatever you use to sign in to your phone, the same system, and all those photos will just appear. Google and Samsung provide a free service where they save your photos online, and you can access them at any time. So these two apps are the main ways that that I use photos that I use to get photos onto my computer. I personally don't use the Samsung one just because I have a Google phone. So in order for this to happen, you know, it's sort of your photos magically get saved online and then viewable on your computer. It needs an internet connection to do that. So it needs to be able to back up these photos online. And most of the time, these apps won't back up if you're just out and about using your cell connection, because it can take quite a lot of bandwidth to do that and can be costly when you're just using your Verizon or your Sprint data connection. So they will wait until you're connected to Wi-Fi. So if you're out and about taking photos, then you come home and you don't see the photos on your computer immediately. It might just be because your phone needs to connect to Wi-Fi, do some backups, and then they'll appear. So don't worry if they're not there immediately.
Thank you for viewing this Next Village video recording. We hope you enjoyed it. Please help us spread the word and tell friends and neighbors about Next Village events and services for seniors and adults with disabilities in San Francisco. Visit our website to learn more about our vibrant, growing network, as well as to view our calendar of upcoming Zoom and in-person events and activities in San Francisco. Our website is nextvillagesf.org. Contact us to join our email list to learn about events and resources for seniors in San Francisco. And subscribe to the Next Village YouTube channel by clicking the button below.